In this episode of the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Dr. Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo reflects on what it means to lead with courage, clarity, and curiosity inside systems that were never designed with everyone in mind. From navigating identity as a Black Ghanaian-American woman in public health spaces to challenging dominant narratives around data, leadership, and belonging, Dr. Attipoe-Dorcoo shares a vision of public health rooted in dignity, care, and collective humanity. This conversation explores curiosity as a form of resistance and what becomes possible when we refuse to accept oppressive systems as the only way forward. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 58. To all the courageous women leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I am an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have real, unfiltered conversations with women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then listen to this new episode. Hello, and welcome to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Christy McClamrock. The more conversations I have through this podcast, the more convinced I become that courage is already everywhere in public health. It's just rarely named, supported, or treated as a leadership skill. Every day, women are navigating systems that ask them to shrink, stay silent, or accept harmful narratives as inevitable. And yet courage continues to show up in questions, in relationships, in truth-telling, and in the refusal to disconnect from our humanity. Through Courageous Public Health, I partner with organizations to support leaders navigating complexity, pressure, and systems change with greater clarity, sustainability, and alignment. Today's conversation explores what it looks like to lead with curiosity, to challenge assumptions, resist limiting narratives, and imagine something better. Dr. Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo is the Principal of TERSHA LLC and an award-winning strategist, author, and systems leader focused on advancing narrative sovereignty through data-informed storytelling and relational governance. With more than 2 decades of experience spanning the CDC, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, philanthropy, nonprofits, and academia, her work centers culturally responsive system design, community health, accessibility, and equity. A multilingual systems thinker and widely recognized thought leader, Dr. Attipoe-Dorcoo has authored more than 70 academic publications and is deeply committed to amplifying systematically underrepresented voices through leadership, mentorship, and community-centered leadership. Here is my conversation with Dr. Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo. Hi there, everybody. So I'm here today with Dr. Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo. Welcome to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Sharon.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Oh my goodness. I am so excited to be here. It is actually a wonderful day in terms of weather here in Huntsville, Alabama. So
Nice.
I am just like, weather's good and I'm having good conversation. So I'm here for it.
We're here. We're going to thank Dr. Linda Animashan for introducing us.
Yes.
So total shout out to Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you,
I know.
sis.
Okay. Well, I want to start by giving you a chance to introduce yourself.
So I am just, little old me, Dr. Sharon. You can call me Dr. Sharon. And I
Dr.
currently
Sharon.
live in Huntsville, Alabama. We've been here, moved to here from Georgia, actually, about 3 years ago with my three munchkins. I am in the season of navigating high school, middle school, and elementary school. So no dull
Wow.
moment in my household. I'm blessed to be able to go through this journey with my husband. And it is quite, when I say it is quite the journey in terms of all the things and showing up throughout the season for them and myself with all the stuff that I'm also navigating in a transition from a federal service role to just the full-time consulting and figuring out what that looks like. And this new season of my life has really been a journey, and one that really teaches you humility and humanity in ways that one cannot really imagine unless you're actually experiencing it. So that's a little bit about me on the personal front. I am a self-acclaimed, I guess I can say that, a system strategist, just based on my various experiences of navigating both my career as well as my education, and being very intentional about how I see the world and the work that I do. And really the thread or the through line through all that I do is around how do we intentionally intersect data and lived experiences in a way that really carries the stories and the wisdom of the communities that we serve. So that's what I do in the world and how I'm trying to live out my purpose. And I am just excited to delve into more things that are coming up for me in this conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for that introduction. And I love that you talked about seasons and how, this is right now, you're in this season.
Yes.
You'll be in another season at some point too.
Indeed.
I'll tell you, so you're in the season of elementary, middle, high school.
Mhm.
I'm in the season of just you graduated high school, getting ready for college.
Yeah.
So we really, between the two of us, we've got,
Yeah.
except for the little ones, the little really tiny ones.
Yeah. How many tiny ones do you have?
No, I just have the one, 19.
Okay.
She's 19. Yeah, I do call her my little one.
Hey, they're always our babies, right?
I know.
And I always say that when I think about people that have pets, I always say we all have our babies. We can have the two-legged babies or the four-legged babies. So they're all babies.
Exactly. Exactly. So true. Okay, so let's talk about courage. I do. I always like to start by reminding people that bravery is taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. And I'm really interested in how people manage your own courage. So can you share some experiences, both your professional life, your personal life, where you've acted courageously?
All the things, right? I mean, even with the example I shared with you in my seasons that I'm navigating, that takes courage, because there are days where there's trepidation around what is my identity in this new season and how is that being reflected in how I'm showing up as a mom, right? So it's like a daily activity or a practice in my mind. But I will say courage also is showing up in a way that you're moving in the world in a way where truth, even as uncomfortable as it might be sometimes, and even costly, one is really willing to be able to move towards that. And what do I mean by that? It is, and so for me, professionally, some of the courageous ways I choose to show up and really live out that truth is to always remember that there are experiences that are driving decisions. So how is that being reflected in my work? I tend to, so as folks who are watching this can see, I am a Black woman, and that's how I'm socially navigating my world in the US. And I have navigated professionally situations where I am the only one in rooms where conversations are not being, or voices around people who look like me in conversations that are meant to support people like me are not talked about. So it is, how do I make sure that I am naming what is missing sometimes in those conversations, challenging assumptions, because they're always dominant narratives around the status quo and what that looks like for people like me who are socialized in a way that is not always reflective of our experiences. So therefore, how can, as I am represented in that room, step into that courage and truth and really talk about those community-rooted approaches that ensures that our voices are heard. And sometimes it can come with fear, right? And sometimes it can also come at the cost of being dismissed, not taken seriously, or I've run into situations where professionally I felt like, because of navigating both the brilliance of what I'm bringing to the table and socially how I'm showing up, there sometimes are penalties to what that looks like. But learning that through it all, silence is never a choice, and that I have to live with that thought as an individual and within myself, really always is one of those things that helps me be able to step into that season of courage whenever it calls for it. And not only professionally, personally too, right? I've shared the experiences with my seasons with my babies, but also just my own identity. And I speak to the fact that I am socially a Black woman in the US. In addition to that, I am not originally from the US. I am originally from Ghana. So as a Ghanaian-American woman, navigating things around the cultural expectations, what it means to be an immigrant in the US, and still really embrace my purpose, that is a vibe of its own. However, I will say choosing to continually have this as a practice, allowing for my values to drive what this looks like for me, my decisions. I'm very much in tune to values around care, dignity, and collective liberation, and always having that as my internal values orientation and locus always allows for me to be able to step into my spaces, both personally and professionally, with courage. So this is how sometimes it looks like trusting my own voice, even if it's shaky sometimes, knowing that the story that I have to share is important, and making sure that choosing that alignment over approval is consistently how I'm practicing courage. I mean, so much so that as preparation for our conversation today, I found this shirt that locally there was a leadership program, and they had a mixer to invite folks that were interested in the space. And it was interesting, speaking of courage, it was a mixer for specifically women in manufacturing. Now, my husband is in manufacturing. I am not. I've navigated the engineering space. So I can speak the lingo, but I don't work in manufacturing. But I'm like, you know what? I'm building my consulting company. There are women here. Let's go meet some people. So I showed up. And what do you know? I walked out with this shirt that says, leading with courage and clarity. And absolutely, as a leader, not only do you need to lead with courage, you need to also lead with clarity, because it's one thing to show up as a leader, but it's another to confuse people that are trying to really understand your vision and walk the path with you. So the more we show up with both courage and clarity, I feel like we become the best leaders that we can be.
Okay, I love the shirt. It's it's fantastic. And I told you that, you know, what I bring to the visual today, for those of you watching on YouTube, is my necklace that says unapologetic. And I think that, you know, part of that being clear is being unapologetic for who you are, unapologetic for your authentic self.
That's right.
And yeah, and that's I think that's so important when you are in those kinds of rooms. So I'm interested in, you know, just thinking more about that authenticity piece and claiming and expressing your power when you're in rooms like that.
Yeah.
How does that go for you? How does that work for you?
Absolutely. And I will say, interestingly, as I mentioned earlier on, as we step into our leadership, how important clarity is, I want to offer two additional thoughts. Clarity is one, like I said, and then two is presence, right? We are, like I said, we are sometimes when I think about myself and in rooms where I'm not represented, it's like, how am I showing up in those rooms that all of who I am is experienced. So that presence is also important. And the third piece or the third point I want to offer is curiosity. We should never let go of that wonder as a kid where we're just asking all the questions and curious about everything. Yes, as an adult, it's like life gets in the way, but I think it's still something about it that is always within us as adults that we should continuously nurture and stay curious. And I feel like as we think about socially, some of the ways that we allow for the dominant narratives to inform stereotypes and biases, sometimes it's because we're not allowing ourselves to be curious about some things that are different from the way we think. And the more we're open and allow for our brains to be able to expand and learn about the different facets of humanity, I think the better leaders we become, and that's when we're also able to express our power in all of its potential. So when I'm in those rooms, when I'm having conversations, to me as a leader, it's not about dominating the room. I'll prefer to shift the room. And I do that through these avenues, right? How am I showing up? How am I offering clarity around what I know and staying curious to learn more around what I do not know? And there's power in that because it moves the boundaries. It almost people naturally, as people, sometimes based on our experiences, we just have our guards up. But when we think about having this curiosity around engagement from a human to human level, we are therefore able to have those guards kind of mellow down a little bit. We're able to be vulnerable and have more conversations around things that we want to talk about and explore, rather than trying to have this approach from a leadership perspective where it's all about dominance and okay, it's me with my titles and I'm coming in with what I know. No, I refuse that. That is to me not ways and within which as leaders we have our full expression of our power. It's really about being able to stay into this space of vulnerability that we're able to shift things. That's where when we talk about outcomes and impact, as small or as large as they look like, those are ways where we're able to do those. So I do that by, again, through curiosity, just asking questions, right? And inviting people to see things differently. Like we kicked off our conversation and I shared about my seasons with the babies and I heard yours. And I'm like, yeah, babies, not only babies as two-legged humans, but there are also babies who are pets. So they're four-legged babies to people who have pets. So again, the ways within which we tend to those boundaries of okay, what are the ways in which we're showing up in our humanness? That to me is how as leaders we express our power. And when I look at it from the perspective of myself, my identity as a Black woman navigating systems that were not built with me in mind, obviously those come with challenges, right? I mentioned being underestimated, sometimes being expected to shrink to make others comfortable, as if that will by any means, add any value to our common humanity. Those are really moments that I feel when we think about how power is expressed, those are moments when I step in with a sense of calmness rather than and build in the sense of discipline around how do I make sure that this experience leaves a different narrative? So therefore, when I'm away from that experience, when somebody else is in that experience, what is that mark that has been left, right? And I know I'm ranting and I'm saying all these things like it's easy. Absolutely not. So I will say for me personally, as a person of faith, recognizing that there's something divine about who I am and the purpose within which I exist, knowing that my ancestors have gone through many more challenges than I have, and I'm here because of answered prayers, reminding myself around those intentional ways of living, again, those divine alignments, also community-wise surrounding myself with people who see me fully, right? Because it's one thing to navigate these systems and one to also know that, you know what? I am not crazy because I have a community who sees me. So if this environment is not seeing me, that's okay. I do have a fully supportive environment that sees me fully for who I am. And showing up with that authenticity, to me, is how we really not only express our power as leaders, but going back to the question around courage, we're also choosing wholeness. Because there's no reason why we as humans need to live like partial lives. We need to live whole lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this idea of curiosity because I think it's so key. Systems of oppression. What's the right word? Sharon, what is the right word? I was going to say systems of oppression do something. They crush curiosity.
Yes.
Systems of oppression.
One way of seeing things, that limited imagination. Yeah.
Systems of oppression don't want us to be curious.
That's right.
They don't want us to be curious.
That's right.
And so when we are curious, that is part of pushing back against those systems.
That's right.
And I wanted to also just say that when you were talking, I was thinking that so often when we're working within systems of oppression, and I say this as a woman, white woman, but a woman, that it's so easy to stay within the language that is offered to us by the systems of oppression.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And part of what we get to do is to say, I'm actually not going to continue to even talk within the framework that you're offering me. I reject your framework.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've found really challenging is like, I will find myself still thinking within the framework, how can I push back or how can I do something differently? And it's like, no, girl, you don't have to stay in that paradigm. Like you don't have to stay there.
That's right.
And that I just was thinking about that when you were talking about, about language and about, using the words that are authentic to you and that are within a new framework that we want to build.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, you're driving the nail on the fact that that's why the systems are the oppression, the racism, all the isms, the supremacist ways of thinking about narratives. You're speaking to how, or the reason why the work is hard, and that is because this is systemic work. Right.
Yes.
It's like we're breathing the air in. And even if you don't subscribe to the ways of the system, it's like, how else will I survive? Because obviously I can't survive outside of the system as it is right now. Yes, I want to tear it down and have something better for myself and for the future generation. But in the midst of doing that, I still got to live. So therefore, how do I ensure that there are some ways where I am resisting and chipping away at the oppressive mindsets? And how can I do that? And how can I bring the brilliance within which I know I am living in through my life, and also in a way that offers different ways, to your point about the paradigm shifts, for all of us collectively to start thinking about, wait, this is not working. And we are human beings, right, with higher order thinking. So how can we do this better? And I think that's to what we're talking about around curiosity. That's
Yeah.
where embracing that gift of curiosity allows for us to push back and think, no, there has to be a better way. And then therefore, let's talk about how, and weaving into experiences that we all have in our different ways, and bringing and allowing that to come in for us to explore. Oh, so you went through this and this was the outcome. Okay, maybe yes, let's try this in this different setting and see how it goes. So we allow for ourselves again to express our power because we step into what we know, and also invite what we're also learning as part of our growth. Yeah.
My friend Eva says, we're all swimming in the soup.
Yes.
We're all swimming in the soup.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to even imagine not being in the soup when you're in the soup. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, you bring up a visual I saw online. I think it was earlier today. Like you see three frogs, and
oh no,
literally the pot is
yeah,
right, and one is just lounging, and one of them says, "Ooh, this is getting mighty hot," and the other is just having a good time, saying,
yeah,
but this, I think this pot is going to be good for me and my family." And you recognize it, you look at it, you recognize that this is just going to be very, very hot to an extreme temperature that nobody's going to survive.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
They're definitely in the soup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. That's a great image. So, okay. So Sharon, I want to, Dr. Sharon, I want to switch over to talking about vision. Because I think this is also, you already spoke to, your values, your faith. And I think vision is sort of another piece of this. So when we are clear on our vision, then we have a direction.
That's right. We
right?
do.
So then that curiosity gets to move us towards our vision.
That's right.
So talk to me about your vision, both your vision for public health, your vision for your community, and your vision for yourself.
Yes. So vision is, I completely agree with you. It's important. As we step into our leadership, we need to know where we're going, because the blind will lead blindly. So
yes.
I feel like having the vision allows for you to orient yourself, so you're very deeply in line or in alignment with your purpose as a leader. And when I say a leader, I mean just everyday leaders, right? We're all leaders in our own right, in the spaces, in the communities that we navigate. The title doesn't make you a leader. How you show up, and to your point, how not only do we show up personally, but also for the communities that we're in, and how we show up professionally in the ways that we're using our gifts in a way that matter to the world, right? That's, to me, true everyday leadership. So my vision for that, and it's, for me, it's cross-cutting for myself, cross-cutting for my communities, and cross-cutting for the field of public health, which is so one of the things I forgot to mention in my introduction is, even though I do my work across different systems, health, the space of health is really at the core of it, because I'm a firm believer that all the systems intersect with health. I mean, if you don't have health, let's face it, all the other systems, can you really navigate them? That would be quite difficult. So at the heart of it, to the way I see my vision laid out, there is a through line, and the through line around three areas. The vision I have is one where love, dignity, and care, they're actually infrastructure that we have established. They're not things that are nice to haves or things that we think about later. Oh, yes, this intervention is doing what it needs to do in terms of the outcomes we're seeing. But was that carried out in care? Were the voices of the people that intervention was meant for, were they treated with dignity? Was a love at the center of what this was all about, that there was space and time that was made for the voices of this community to really inform the so-called outcomes, right? So that is my vision. And specifically, so that's my vision overall, and specifically when we look at public health, sometimes it can very much be defined by crisis response, right? I mean, we're currently living
Yes.
as a daily, right? But what if there was another way that we can think about the field, where rather than that being how we know the field, it's one that is full of powerful community wisdom, right? Because we say public health is about communities. It's about prevention, like at the heart of it, not necessarily just have it as something that we say passively, and we know the resources are allocated at whim or depending on political shifts, but there's intentionality around the infrastructure of prevention and equity, the word that we don't want to hear about, but really it's just making sure that there's fairness around the needs of health for every single soul who is, or as we all look at each other as humans, they, or all of us rather, get what we need to get to be able to have good health and well-being so we can live at our purpose. That is a vision I have. So when we're able to think of, to me, when that happens, especially in the space of public health, this is where my own bigger, like when you're looking at it from nested systems perspective, so taking a bit of a step out of the public health nested circle to a broader look.
Yeah.
Mine is really in the heart of it, my why. It's narrative sovereignty. And somebody be like, okay, what does that mean? So sovereignty is really centering agency and governance, right, around some concept. And so narrative is this broad spectrum, and from my definition anyway, where data, so this is data that I can, it's observed or not observed. It is experiences, so things I have lived through, things I have learned, and also stories. So stories that we've heard, stories that we remember, all of those things come together to me to form narratives. And I make that very clear distinction because of my own experience, right? Sitting in a public health course. It was actually my biostats course. And I'm sitting there, so remember my identity not only as a Black woman, but somebody who's also from Ghana. So I'm here navigating identity as a Ghanaian-American, sitting in a biostats class in an American classroom, right? I know who my family is in terms of culture, in terms of food and what we think about health and education. So all of that is sitting in the classroom with me. Right? So that is a data.
Yes.
That is experience, the stories of what I was told growing up and how that is all showing up in that cross-sectional moment in that classroom. And then the information I am being fed are prevalence rates that consider Black people as a monolith. And literally, all the things I can think of around the prevalence of chronic conditions, right? And I saw those statistics, and literally I felt something visceral happening in my body that if it wasn't a self-awareness that, oh yeah, I'm not alone, I screamed out. And this was internally screaming because obviously I didn't say it out loud because I'm alone. It's like, that's not me and my family. Because the data that was being presented was presented a narrative that did not look a narrative, the broad definition that I offered around the data, the lived experiences, and the stories, and considered a population because, yes, I understand statistically we need to think about averages overall. However, the data is more than the average. So we need to add the context of, okay, that's good that we're seeing these patterns in Black populations, but Black populations are not a monolith. So what are the various ways within the identity of Blackness? Is this data important, and what should we consider in order to really live out public health, which is at the heart of what I was studying? So I said all that to say that that is my vision, where that experience is never an experience in our education system ever again. And also recognize that over the historic, times and reflecting back over time, Black women, Indigenous women, Brown women specifically, we have always been architects of care. It is something that nature has offered, right? And if we see transformation happening, we tend to be the stewards of this transformation. So therefore, that teaches me that in order for this vision to come to life, we also need to think about how relational our approaches are, and making sure that we recognize that it is with the work is we talked about this quite a bit in the first 30 minutes of our conversation around systems, right, and how this work is systemic. So we really need to understand that even though we see human replications or effects of things, we need to also be careful not to always be the finger pointing on the people or the person, and rather take a step back and take a wider view of what is a system that is informing some of this. So I always say, there's a saying that I say that it's hard for me to be, it's difficult for me to be hard on the person without looking at the system, and learning that sometimes the ways within which the systems have informed our lenses of navigating life can come out in ways that are harmful. So if we're going to have honest conversations around transformation, around change for better, or just making sure the systems that aren't working are just thrown out the door and build better ones, then let's come with all our vulnerability and the truthness that, hey, that nonsense is not working.
Yeah.
And I know you might be in your feelings and all of that, but we got to get past the feelings, because that's where we get to what is better. Because we all know we want better. Ask any parent, and they want better for their kids, right? Yep. So can we agree on some fundamental humanity things? And to me, that is a vision. And we can only do that if we're willing to have the real conversation. So in the spirit of that, actually, I want to offer to listeners that a couple of my sisters, Doctors Monique Liston and Dr. Kimberly Harris, and I got together, and we expressed our power and took courage and said, you know what, there's some things that we've been sitting on for too long. So we came together and wrote about positionalities, specifically got published in the field of evaluation, but it transcends that. It applies to all the fields. And we coined the framework called HEAPS, which is highly educated and politicized sisters, because we recognize that our power and how it's showing up as consultants, as individuals who have pulled through different experiences, albeit collectively through our Blackness. There is something about our brilliance that just needs to be heard and said and recognized. So we're going to write about it and publish it. So that's what we did. So I will have the link for the notes, and I'll share.
Yes, please.
And I hope people enjoy reading it. And I'm always happy to have conversations about people's thoughts about it.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
That's really, wow. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Thank you. And then one additional opportunity that I have to share is within this vein of building out this vision is I get to lead a workshop at a convening coming up in June 11th through 12th, 2026, specifically in Minneapolis, run by the Research and Action Organization in Minneapolis. So I invite people, I'll have the link as well. I invite people who are local. It might be too close for people to make travel plans. However, you never know. People might be traveling there anyway. So if folks are able to click the link and register and come check it out, I will be speaking. There's some themes that I've highlighted already, but the talk specifically is around the concept of data alchemy. So thinking about things around our memories, how we make meaning, and the concept of mentions, which talks about how are we naming the brilliance of people that are not always in the dominant status quo of narratives, but how are we constantly thinking about and mentioning their brilliance in spaces. So we delved into some of that during the workshop.
I'm glad we're talking about your brilliance in this space.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And you're awesome, Dr. Christie, for what you're doing and curating in such spaces for these conversations to happen. Yeah.
It's really, I just feel so honored to get to have these conversations, honestly. Yeah.
You're doing the work.
Thank you. Oh, I wanted to go back for a second again to this idea of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that we are all leaders in our own way.
Right.
And, one of the ways that I've been thinking about that, one of the ways that I'm a leader is I'm a leader in my family.
That's right.
And me being a leader in my family does not mean that my husband doesn't also get to be the leader.
That's right.
And my daughter gets to be the leader.
That's right.
And that is just one example of, the narrative is that you have one leader and everyone else is a follower.
That's right.
I think that's probably part of, that's part of that like oppressive narrative.
That's right.
And I'm like, I reject that. I choose to reject that.
I love it. And what better place for that to happen than the home?
Yes. And acknowledging that. I was also thinking, when you're in those spaces where your voice is rejected, that can be very challenging. And then it's so important to have other spaces where you're not in the soup.
That's right. No, you can get out of the soup.
Get out of the soup. You take the ladder and you literally climb out of the soup. And you still have those moments when you're in community, you're in family, whatever it is. And you can take a breath.
That's right. And that is so
I think that's also really key.
I could not.
And it's the times where, for me, it's the times where I either forget that I have those spaces in my life, or, there's some situational thing that makes it difficult for me to access those spaces. Those are the hardest moments for me.
Yeah.
Because then all I see is the soup.
The soup, correct.
Yeah.
And that's really what the intention with the design of the system, that's what it's supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
To make you think the soup is all there is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even when you're in a space where you don't feel welcome, like that sense of not feeling welcome, that is part of the design. That is what the system is designed to do, to keep people small, to keep people silent.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. Not on your watch, Dr. Sharon, not on your watch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This has been a great conversation. And I'm really happy that you are now in my circle. You are now in my network.
Yes.
That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Okay. So, are there other ways? So we're going to put the link for, the paper. We're going to put the link for the conference. other ways for listeners to connect with you.
Absolutely. Please find me on socials. I'm very much active on LinkedIn. So just
Great.
Google my name, Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo.
We'll put it. Yeah, we'll put that link in.
Yeah, and I have this goofy smile on LinkedIn, so find me there.
Love it.
I actually have my hair is different there, but it's the same me. I started my locks, but life was life, and so I'm going through a transition with my hair too. So be it. I'm also on Instagram. I actually, again, part of my introduction that I forgot to mention. Because sometimes you're just enjoying the spirit of curiosity. You enjoy so many other levers and layers of life. Yeah. So I'm actually also a children's book author. So maybe I'll share that link too.
Okay, let's share that link as well.
Yes, because when you find me on Instagram, it's actually not my name. It's Coley Bosco, which is the name of the children's book. So that's how you find me on Instagram. Yes.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll put all of those links. Lots of things for people to look at and enjoy and learn about, and then connect with you.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I love
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharon. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to staying connected.
Thank you.
Sometimes courage is asking questions that systems of oppression would rather leave unanswered. Sometimes courage is refusing to shrink yourself to fit environments that were never designed with you in mind. Sometimes courage is choosing curiosity, humanity, and connection, even inside systems shaped by fear and limitation. Dr. Sharon Attipoe-Dorcoo reminds us that leadership is not about dominance. It's about clarity, presence, and the willingness to imagine something better together. If this conversation stayed with you, if it made you think differently about leadership, systems, or the narratives we carry, this is exactly the work we do through Courageous Public Health. We partner with organizations to support leaders navigating complexity, systems change, and high-stakes decision-making with greater clarity, alignment, and sustainability. Because when leaders are supported in bringing their full humanity into the work, public health becomes more courageous, more relational, and more transformative. If that resonates, I'd love to connect. Links are in the show notes. Until our next episode, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.